All right, chat. We are back. We are ready to talk about the thing that I've been wanting to talk with Phoenix the most about. We're back alive, said Skylar. Are we alive in this doggy dog world? I don't know. You could ask Arjun Devraj that. All right, no. So I've been wanting to eagerly talk to Phoenix about this game. He got me to play a game called. Well, I don't say you got me. I really want to
Blame
play this
me.
anyways. Yeah. We both played a game called SAROS. If you haven't seen, I'll have to re-upload it at some point. But we are we're big fans of the game Returnal, made by House Marquee, and so this was something that immediately I remember when it got announced a year or so ago. We were like, oh, we're gonna be playing that. Yeah, and so we delved into the game Saros. How long? Took me? Well, gosh, it took me longer to beat it than I thought it would, like 2 to 3 weeks. Did it take you about that same time frame, or did you
I don't
beat it
think
sooner?
quite, but I probably beat it in about a week. But I think I had some longer sessions than you did. I really just kind of hunkered down and ran through it as fast as I could. Um, yeah, definitely some spots I struggled at.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think you may have had a few more, but
Oh yeah,
it's all good.
I struggled definitely at parts. Before we get into that, I mean, I guess to kind of get into some first impressions, real quick, just what were some things you were like after coming off of Returnal? What were some things you were wanting from a House Marquee sequel? What were some things you were wanting in Sorrows?
I mean, it's hard.
Were
Returnal
you wanting just more
was
Return? I mean, I don't think we were wanting just more Returnal in general, right?
yeah, I didn't know. I'm trying to think of a way to even frame this because I mean, I didn't really even think about that going into it. I know I wanted the gameplay. I think at its core, that's what you want out of it. Like Returnal at its core is that roguelike bullet hell, shooter platform that really doesn't exist in any other game that I've come across. So more of that I definitely wanted. But Returnal had this very special quality to it that wasn't just the gameplay. It had a very, I think, intriguing narrative. How the narrative was kind of fed to you, I thought was interesting. The atmosphere and the world building, like it had so much that made this a very special game. So I think it's very open to what Housemarque was going to do with this, assuming they were going to do something very similar to that. Like how were they going to not one up Returnal, but kind of not reimagine even, but kind
Be
of
an
do
addition.
that again with a
Yeah.
different take. Yeah, like what kind of spin are they going to do that kind of keeps that um, all kind of intact, right? That unique atmosphere, that interesting, kind of vague but very still I think poignant story. Like that's what I want to see again. And I know it's very hard. Returnal, I think in a lot of ways was lightning in a bottle. I know it didn't work well for everybody just because it had a very high threshold as far as difficulty and that turned a lot of people off. And I know it didn't do quite as well as it could have because of that. But I don't know. For me, and I'll just say this before we get too deep, I still like Returnal a
Oh no,
lot
no, I
better than
agree. I
Saros.
I feel like I really enjoyed this game. I love the heck out of it. But I agree with you.
Yeah,
I
and I
think
don't
I
mean
ended up
that as a
walking
dig at
away liking
Saros.
Returnal more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't. Before I go to, I do have a lot of critiques about this game, but I don't want it to come across as this is not a good game. This
No, it's just
is
being
a solid
critical.
gaming
There's nothing
experience.
wrong with critiquing.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like in comparison to Returnal, especially if you played Returnal first, this game just for me couldn't hit those highs again. And I think when we start digging into it, I think maybe I'll be able to maybe expound upon that a little better. This is still a great game from a gameplay perspective. I think most will argue it's better in some ways because you can do more, you're faster, you have more abilities, and all that's well and good. Definitely some awesome encounters throughout the game, but it just didn't hit the same for me. But we can dig into that in a few minutes. So good game. Returnal is still better overall, but that's
Yeah.
me.
Um. Yeah. There was. I guess you were kind of talking about what could this game really build upon with Returnal, or build from with what House Marquee and Returnal were going, and I feel like they weren't able to do much in terms of certain things, but I feel like one thing that was super interesting to me that I did feel like they really took and they really kind of I don't know, I don't want to say build upon because it's not what Returnal's built upon, but it really was something that kind of uh, created a foundation for this game. Was I feel like a lot of just the overall theming and to an extent, I if you watch some of the videos, there's some people that do like really in depth lore videos, and two, like a lot of the influences of like Indian culture within the game, which obviously your two main protagonists are Indian, from what I understand, Arjun Devraj and Nitya. Um, I feel like that kind of really delivers some of the artistic changes. I think that's probably where this game probably differs the most from Returnal, is in not just the color schemes, but overall the designs, and again the overall artistic direction, which I feel like
I want
that.
to piggyback
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
off of that a little. No, no, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you a little bit,
I was
but
just trying to think of
so
a place where this game tries to differentiate itself to an extent from Returnal, and that's probably the biggest place where I can think of, like, colors wise. Yeah, it still has the red and the blues, like Returnal had with like the firing of the guns, but like that's where I thought was the most difference.
see, and I almost disagree. Like I agree, like the Indian artistic design towards like with this are like boss
And I bring up
encounters and
the
stuff
Indian
like
stuff
that.
again. If you look at lore videos, there's people that talk about
Oh,
how
sure.
every aspect of this game, uh, down to like people's names, are like names and bosses and the designs.
Yeah,
All of it's
definitely.
like
It is
Indian
it is a heavy
culture.
influence.
Yeah,
And I do think that is a unique spin, but if I look at the broader even like art direction of this game, it feels very Returnal. Like when
it
I got into the
does. It does.
first environment, I was like, didn't I wasn't I in this environment in Returnal? And of course you weren't. Like it wasn't one to one the same.
Hmm.
But this game I felt like had a little bit of an identity crisis for me where it didn't feel fresh, which to be completely fair, this game was never going to feel as novel as Returnal did. As that was the first game with this type of genre that I really kind of sink my teeth into, that kind of combined the bullet hell and the roguelike and all that stuff together and made a very unique experience. This game was never going to quite match that, and I knew that going into it. But what kind of I think shot it or did itself a disservice was a lot of the architecture felt very similar. Like so you're in this kind of ruined outside environment. You're in that inside of Returnal for a good aspect. You have an ancient city. You have an ancient city in Returnal. You have a marshy bogland. You have a marshy bogland in Returnal. Like the color palette also,
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
but the
You're
pretty. Oh,
Yeah, you're having some hiccups. Say something more again.
oh, hello, hello.
Okay, clear it
Still
up.
there?
You had a break up there for a second.
Oh,
You
well, I don't know
said
how
something
much of
about a
that you got then.
bogland. You have a marshy bogland. So start off from there.
Point being is a lot of the environments that you have inside of SAROS, you kind of already had inside of Returnal to some level. So they didn't feel overly unique here. And I'll be completely honest, I think Returnal had far more varied biomes even beyond what we saw here. Like you had the snowy area, you had the underwater section. Like very few of the
Oh, I
environments here
forgot
in
about the
SAROS.
underwater part. Oh wow. Yeah.
And I mean, I know this one had like the cathedral and stuff like that, which Returnal didn't have. But I think because a lot of this architecture kind of seems kind of universal throughout all the different environments you're in, it didn't really feel all that different when I got there. So I don't know. For me, the biomes just did not really stand out like they did in Returnal, and that's honestly that's half the fun. I think in these games is moving between these super unique biomes and kind of seeing what
Now
the
that
new
I
challenges are.
now that I think about it, is it designed like is it designed? I mean, obviously, like in Returnal, you're underwater because there's the reference of the car, right? There's
Mhm.
an underwater section because that's referenced. That's where you guys died, and so much of the game, color wise, and is a reflection of Celine. I mean, is that possibly where they're going with this? Is that eventually like each of these games? Obviously, each of these games is supposed to be referential of like it's not hell, because I do think this is an actual place that these astronauts keep going to, but the hell that they are put through almost to an extent is a reflection of their minds and their personalities. It's like Arjun is Indian, so therefore everything's gonna have an Indian outlook, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying like,
I see what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with that take necessarily, though, that
oh,
these
okay,
places are real.
I think they're real.
And this is,
Well, I think they are.
I think it's a little more open-ended in Sorrows. In Returnal, I don't. I don't think anything Celine went through was real. I think that was all in her mind. She was in kind of, self-inflicted purgatory, whatever it may be. That's,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Let's wait till we get, I think,
Yeah,
deep
yeah,
into the
yeah. Okay.
narrative to really discuss that. I know what you're saying. Like the environments are reflective of the character and their background and their story and trying to accent those different parts and kind of their journey. I think that was a lot clearer and I think a lot more relatable in Returnal, especially with like the whole sinking aspect at the end, going underwater. I don't know if that really came across as nearly as well as Saros, but just in general, even if I'm ignoring the connections to character, the biomes themselves didn't feel as interesting inside of Saros. If anything, I felt like I'd seen them before. I could say the same thing with enemies for the most part, like your standard enemies. A lot of them I probably couldn't have said if you didn't just pull them out of Returnal and plop them in here that I hadn't already fought them before. So I didn't feel like there was a unique variety in enemy structure. Even some of the bosses, and don't get me wrong, I actually really, really enjoyed the boss fights in this game. They
How
almost,
many?
at least a
Because
good
I
handful
feel
of
like
them.
2 or 3 of them weren't that great. I feel like maybe
I
half of them were.
enjoyed almost all of them. Not all of them I think were overly challenging, but I enjoyed fighting through most of them and seeing the bosses. Like few of the bosses I think were letdowns as far as like visuals and whatnot.
I mean, I
Um,
don't know. I felt like the second boss wasn't that crazy. That was the one in the underground. There was
yeah,
the
the big eyeball
big
laser guy.
eyeball. Wasn't that
I thought it was
great?
cool enough. Okay, well,
The I don't know. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, I mean, I get what you're saying. They're not that any of them were incredible. I thought they were all fun enough for what they were. I guess I'll leave it at that. But I also feel like a lot of them were kind of similar to Returnal once again. The very first fight in Returnal, I'm sorry, in Saros, the
The
withered,
prophet.
rotting
I think it's
tree kind of
prophet.
guy. Yeah, whoever the first guy was, I don't
Yeah.
remember. That's actually very akin to the last boss battle in Returnal, as far as like the structure and even how the battle goes. We have to shoot the orbs to get access
Mm-hmm.
to the weak point. The big flying guy, the architect, was kind of similar-ish to what they had in, I think it was the second biome in Returnal. The
Priestess.
priestess, where
Yeah.
you have him floating on the islands, very similar to, I think it was Nemesis in
That might be my
Returnal. So
favorite. I think that's my favorite battle. It's priestess.
yeah, like I'm not trying to knock the quality on any one of these things. Like the world still looks great. The enemies still are responsive. The bosses are I still think are really cool, but they very few of them feel overly fresh. I almost feel
Mm-hmm.
like every big thing I'd kind of seen before in Returnal, whether it did better or not is a debatable point, but it lost a lot of the hey, that's new kind of feel that I was kind
It
of
did
hoping to
kind of
get
feel
from it.
like you were just it did kind of feel like you were just getting past each of them simply by just expanding your ability tree. It's like, oh, I just know if I get my ability, if I open up more abilities, I make stronger, I'll get past the next boss fight. Versus like you really having to change up how your game, how you're approaching the next boss is what I mean.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily,
And
oh, I
that's
need to
true.
change up. I just need to unlock more halcyons and illuminites just to get past the next boss.
But my point, I think, I'll move on. But my point with everything I've said is not so much about gameplay. It's that Soros doesn't feel fresh to me. Almost everything it does, I feel like I've seen already in Returnal, whether it be the environments, the bosses, the enemies. And I think that was probably one of the biggest letdowns for me in this game. It didn't feel new. I feel like they could have done a completely different environment and completely different enemy types, and they could have stretched that a little bit further. And I think that would have sold me a lot better. That's when I said like I want more Returnal. I want more of Returnal with a whole new like fresh coat of paint. This just felt like honestly Returnal 2, or even like almost a remake of Returnal in some
Mm-hmm.
ways. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too deep down that rabbit hole, but either
Is
way.
this the first video game that's like? Is this the first video game with an Indian lead that's like Indian culture oriented? Now that I think about it, I don't know why that
So
shot into my head. Um,
I don't, I mean, so I don't know for sure. I haven't played every game out there. I'd be surprised if there's not at least one other out there. This
I
one's
just
very
mean it's
prominent for a
interesting.
big triple
Yeah,
A. Yeah,
I just thought it was interesting. Like
yeah.
I think in the end with this game, at least like you know, I want to say at least it's a great game in my opinion. But like a cool thing about it is like it being so unique
The
looks
cultural
wise in terms of
representation.
the cultural representation. That'll be something
Yeah,
that carries this game for a really long time.
yeah, that's fair. It didn't do
Um,
enough for me though to I think make it stand out. I think
no, no,
one
no,
more,
no, no.
but
I agree with you in that it doesn't do enough to elevate it over Returnal, which Returnal overall just
Or even make it feel a lot that different from Returnal is what I guess I'm saying. Like, what
Yeah,
about this feels different than Returnal, barring okay, the Indian influences from a artistic standpoint, environment standpoint, enemy design standpoint? How does this game feel different than Returnal? That's I think my big question.
it doesn't really. No, I'm agreeing with you there. Yeah. Um, it doesn't. I'm just like pointing out the one thing I can think of that does differentiate it. But in terms of the gameplay, I see what you're saying. How it doesn't do a heck of a whole lot there,
It's
other
not
than
just the
giving the
gameplay though.
bosses
Like it
like
is,
multiple arms.
yeah, but even like the, I don't know. I'm gonna retread that point. I don't really want to do that. I just feel like this does not feel novel. It feels like I've seen it before in Returnal. So I'll leave it at that. That's my big critique there.
Now, gosh, I hate to put it this way. Is that is that not a is that not a good thing? Like, I feel like you need a bit of both. Like, I don't know. It's so tricky saying you want something different when when you really like something. Like, you know what I'm saying. I'm touching on the idea of like people say, oh, we want something new, but then when you really like the previous thing, like
So I
I
want
do want just more Returnal, but I don't want different Return.
so
You
I
know, I don't
okay,
know.
so let me rephrase this a little bit too. A lot of what I'm arguing, honestly, is visual more than anything else.
Okay, okay,
Like the environments look like Returnal to me. The enemies look like the same enemies from Returnal, like the
okay.
big
Fair
like
enough.
squid things, the little dog things, like even the robot kind of things. I feel like there were some animatronic robot things in Returnal.
I think there
Um,
was, yeah.
the biomes once again architecturally seem a lot like Returnal. I like they're really small swaps. Like you had the weird like alien body horror statues inside of Returnal. You've got them here, but it's just a slightly different art direction for them. But it's the same thing. I want more gameplay from Returnal, and that they brought in spades. Like the
Hmm.
gameplay is excellent, but it looks like I'm just kind of playing Returnal again. Like I think they could have done a lot more to make the environment truly more unique. As I think the biomes in Returnal were already more varied than what we're seeing inside of Saros. More enemy variety, and there probably was some. I mean, I'm probably selling the game a little short here. If I really put it side by side, there probably are some things, but broad strokes, a lot of things just feel
And,
super
and
similar.
now that I think about it, like another thing that Returnal had was a lot of the offshoot story based stuff, like everything happened to do in the house, in the White House that you kept seeing. Everything that Celine went through that wasn't really gameplay based, that was more uh I don't know, like that stuff was more interesting versus what Devraj kind of goes through with it any time he goes inside the tree. Like whenever he goes in the
Yeah.
tree, some of that stuff is a little bit more, it's a little bit more dull, I would just say, versus like Celine, like you would go in there and the whole thing was like, well, what's going on in the house? Why is this astronaut thing you keep seeing floating around everywhere? You know what I mean? There was just so much more intrigue versus.
Yeah, the setup in Returnal story wise, I just think like it was vague and still kind of mysterious, but it was told I don't want to say it was told better, but I liked the way they kind of trickled it out better. It kept the intrigue longer, and I think it was just a little more interesting. The story in Soros, and we're going to get into, I'm sure, in a few moments, but it didn't hit the same, at least not for me.
All right, so anything else? I don't know. Did we really touch
I
on like some of
will.
the
Oh, go
mechanics
ahead.
and flow? What were we still wrapping up like atmosphere and lore? I think atmosphere is what you were mainly touching on.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess and if we're going to switch like the gameplay one, I think we've kind of already hit on it. Gameplay's
Yeah.
solid. I mean, they added a few little things in here. I mean, power weapons are new. You get the shield mechanic, which I think is neat. Like, I have very few complaints as far as the moment to moment gameplay. If anything, that's what really sells this game is
Oh yeah,
it
it's
plays
very
as
fun.
good as yeah, or if not better than Returnal. So
It does
that
a
they
it
get that in
it
spades.
does a great job with the Hades thing where it's like you're just like, oh, just one more run. When you die and you get revived, there's that whole, you get that little rush where you're just like, oh, maybe one more rush, maybe one more run, and maybe I can make it just a little bit further on the next one, or maybe it'd be worth it for me to gather some leucinite. It does a great job of, I mean, that what is it? The guy that made Halo or whatever. The whole quote from him is like, the most important part of making a game is the minute or the minute to minute every or
Yeah, the minute loop. Yeah.
minute loop. I forget. I forgot what his quote was.
Yeah, it's that little gameplay hook. I guess kind of on that same point, then kind of the structure, flow, and this kind of leans into the difficulty of the game a little bit because
I was
this is
just gonna
where
say
probably
we should move to
Returnal and
difficulty.
Saros,
Yeah.
yeah, this is where they differentiate the most. So Saros was very much you go as far as you can every time, and then you reset. Not quite back to square one, but pretty close. Your permanent upgrades are few and far between. But the structure is different because you always kind of start at the beginning of the first biome, and then you are allowed to skip bosses through some shortcuts, but you still have to kind of traverse the old biomes. This game doesn't quite do that.
No.
They
Yeah.
once you beat a biome, you can go back and play the old ones, but you also have to play them pretty much in their entirety. Like you have to go through, you have to fight the boss, and move on to the next biome, or you can just straight up skip them. You can just use the teleporter to bypass that biome completely and start in whatever one you want to, the newest one, somewhere in between. And that really changes, for one, the pacing and flow and your difficulty to a certain extent, both for good and for bad. I don't know if how much you kind of skipped around in the teleporter stuff, but I always found that harder. Like if you just hop into, the third biome
Oh, it
and
was
try to,
wait.
successfully get through it.
It wasn't something I realized, but like I think the best route in the entire game was playing from the beginning every time. It's something I didn't realize, but like the amount of Halcyon and Lucenite you get from starting from the beginning, I would have
Artifacts you get, proficiency
I
build
would
up,
have
all that
beaten the
makes you so much
game. I
stronger.
would have beaten it way sooner. I think if I would have been doing that because I kept just going, teleporting to the place I needed to go to next, and yeah,
The downside to that, though, is at least with the way this game's structured, you go through a biome, and then when you get to the boss, you still have to fight the boss, which I mean, it can be good and bad. You definitely get some good bonuses from it, but unless you're really good at the boss, you can definitely take some hits there too before you get into the next biome. So I know in Returnal, you could go as far as you want to the biome and then skip the boss, which I kind of like. So you can kind of get all the buildup you want, but then only have to worry about the boss that is your next big encounter. Whereas this game, if you chose to start at the beginning, you had to go through everything. So I don't know. Did you like that, having to go through the entire biome, including the boss again? Would you have preferred a way to kind of skirt through and take some shortcuts through the biome, a la Returnal?
I agree with you. I just think it made it. I definitely think adding the thing that they had where you could just jump in the teleport. I think it trivialized a little bit of the stuff. Like I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I want to say it trivialized it, but I still got like a rush out of completing and making it further either way. Um,
I think what I'm asking you though specifically compared if you didn't use the teleporter, like
mhm.
Returnal would let you, like they forced you basically to no teleporter, right? So you had to start at the beginning of a biome and work through it, but you could skip bosses. You only had to work
Yeah,
your way up
I would
to
have
whatever your
preferred
current
that. Is what
boss
I'm saying.
is.
I think I would have preferred that.
Okay, I got you. Did
Uh,
you use any of the modifiers when you unlocked them?
I did not. Well, I used only the ones that helped you. I didn't use any of the ones that made it harder. I think the main one I had was there was one that was super helpful where it I think you generated more leucinite, and there's one I think that gave you full health whenever you entered a boss fight. I think those were like by far in a way the two easiest to put on ones.
So I think it's probably the most interesting thing when it comes to the conversation of difficulty for this game because everybody's harping on this game is not as hard as Returnal, which I think that's debatable in parts. Like parts are
This
definitely easier in some
maybe it's because I just
areas.
didn't know how to
Some of
play it
the
for a long time, but this game was hard. I thought it was hard in a couple places.
There were some peaks in here where things spiked a little bit. I think for me it was the second biome was a little rough, and then it got really easy for a while. Then it spiked later on.
I thought the second
Um,
biome was pretty easy.
Yeah, so it's all I think going to be somewhat relative to you and kind of
Mm-hmm.
your play style and whatnot. But when the modifiers came in, I found this a very interesting choice. I think the whole reaction to having these modifiers was everybody thought Returnal way too hard. We're going to give you these modifiers where you make the game as easy or as hard as you want, which is cool. But now it makes it very hard for me to think about, okay, what is the right way to play this game? Like, I'm very much, if a game puts mechanics in, mechanics should be used, right? So I should be able to use whatever modifiers I want and feel good
Mm-hmm.
about that. I always felt dirty using the mods in this because I didn't feel like that was really the true experience. Like, I would imagine, like, no modifier playthrough is, kind of the curated experience that Housemarque wanted you to play. But by offering those mods, I was kind of at odds with myself. Like, well, I feel like I shouldn't be using the mods because that feels like the true experience. But the
Mm-hmm.
game has given me these mods. Why should I not use these? Because they're a mechanic of the game. So I felt very torn about that difficulty. Personally, I kind of wish the mods weren't there, or at least not there until you beat a
Until
whole
you beat it.
playthrough. Now,
Right, yeah.
I know they didn't want to run to the point there where people hit a wall halfway through the game, literally couldn't beat it because they weren't good enough, and then got them had to skip over it. I do know. So this was something that I thought was interesting. I think for most people who play the game and play pretty well, you don't unlock the mods till after you beat the second boss. If you play super bad though, like you're in the first world, you can't get past the first boss.
Mm-hmm.
After so many deaths, it will just give you the mods anyway. I kind of wish they would have had a take where most people who play the game at a fairly good pacing, where they're not, hitting their head against a wall, you have to beat the entire game to get the mods. But if you do get to a certain threshold, whatever biome you might be in, then it gives you the mods. Maybe that would have felt a little better to me instead of just straight up, oh, you got past boss 2? Great. Here's these mods. Do what you want to with them. So I don't know. I mean, I think for those who like having the curated experience and making it super hard and super easy, I think the mods are a cool tool. I just felt weird about using them. I don't know. What were your takes on the mods?
Um, I don't know. As somebody who pretty much used the two main mods all throughout this gameplay, like once they opened up, I basically used them, and I still had a lot of trouble with the freaking game.
Yeah.
I think my biggest problem with the difficulty was I didn't understand a lot of the gun related stuff until like the latter end of the game. I feel like
Mm.
around the time I started getting to like priestess is about the time where I'm like, oh okay, and even then until I got to king, I feel like even once I got to king, that's when I started really kind of learning or figuring out about the what is it? One of them was the there's green and red. What was it? The corruptions and
Oh yeah.
like the whole idea of the corruptions and even now I feel like I still didn't like really get a grasp on how some of those functioned. I kind of just ended up because I remember literally while I'm fighting king, uh learning about how like the power level of your gun really doesn't matter and learning more it's about the abilities that you find particularly stick out to you. I don't know, it's so weird how it took me
Yeah.
so long in that game to kind of figure out like
There's a
uh
lot of systems that the game does not really explain really overtly. Like they'll mention it really quickly in the tutorial, and then if you don't go and really read onto it and then experiment, you can overlook a lot. And that was kind of the same. I don't think I figured out a lot until probably the latter third of my playthrough. Was like, oh, this is kind of what this gun's supposed to do, and what I should be
mhm.
looking for, and things like that.
Because like
And to be fair,
I never liked the shotgun and the pistol. I never used them.
still
But
don't like the shotgun.
looking back, I'm sure there's a way that gun could be amazing based on whatever specific role or whatever you could find. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Yeah. And part of that's probably true across the board in a lot of different games too. So you spend more time with the gun, you kind of learn, its ins and outs and whatnot. Like I know the chakram guns, like a certain one, is super OP, and I think I ended up starting using it towards the end of one of my last playthroughs. And I started to get a taste from like, wow, this thing's crazy, but it's hard to use. The game doesn't really elaborate how to use it effectively, so it takes a lot of trial and error. And I'm okay with some of that. I'm not really against a game that's a little obtuse and requires you to learn the systems, but I do agree that some of them were maybe a little too obtuse. I
I was
guess
a
I'll leave
smart
it at that.
rifle. I was a smart rifle all the way. That by far and
That I
away.
think is the best baseline to get through because you can't really mess it up. You pull the trigger and it's going to hit what you want to hit.
Especially once you start finding a good assault smart rifle at the beginning. That first boss, that's when I don't think I ended up beating him until I started finding like I found a good smart rifle. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I can just not even like focus on the main boss cuz then my shots would go to the orbs on the sides. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That would unlock profit or whatever and I don't know. It definitely
Yeah.
helps. I thought that was probably the most important part of the game was like the guns and whatnot, but
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, the artifacts honestly felt very superficial.
I'm not quite.
And I'm trying to remember Eternals.
I still didn't quite understand what like because you could get enough corruptions and whatnot, and it would say like, "Oh, you've been over whatever burdened or whatever," and I'm like,
Yeah, there's
okay,
like subsystems that can make you more powerful or can be a hindrance. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the game that you can
mm-hmm,
kind of read into, but you don't really need to. You can certainly just kind of take it at a surface level, choose the base guns like a smart rifle, and kind of plow your way through. Or you can dig into all these deeper systems and raise the skill level a little bit. So I appreciate a game that has a little more depth. I will say though, and this is probably true for Returnal too to a certain extent, there's not like this game really gives you a bunch of options for different builds of your character. Like, yeah, you can maybe choose shotgun versus smart rifle, but you're still kind of playing the game the same way. You're still having to
Mm-hmm.
move the entire time and be quick about your, choices and whatnot. And there are sometimes some really clear bad choices versus some really clear good choices. So you're always kind of playing the game the same way. I wish there was a little better way to have more build variety where there's like some different synergies that would make things more interesting. Instead of just now, I always lean on the exact same, weapon choice, and I play the game the exact same way every run. So that could have given the game a little more legs, but that's a whole different game design discussion, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Uh, and overall, I guess just my overall thoughts on difficulty. I personally thought this game was plenty difficult, man. There were a couple. I agree with you. There were some spikes. In particular, I felt like the first two or three bosses were ridiculously easy. I think the ones in most that were the easiest were there was one that was like a floating. What was it? A floating eyeball where it had like
Legion.
a
Yeah, that
legion.
was the easiest.
That was by far the easiest. And then the boss before that, which was just a big beast that kept jumping
Yeah.
around. Those were far and away the two best one or two weakest ones. I definitely think the best three bosses are the final three. There's the Cthulhu looking one out in the water. There's Priestess
Shepherd.
and then King. Oh, and then you also I guess had the Bat, whichever one was the Bat.
Architect. Yeah.
Architect. That one wasn't bad. I guess I, I don't know. I guess you could lump those four in as like all of those were far and away the best four matches.
Yeah. I liked. I mean, I said this earlier. I liked all the bosses. There were some that, yes, I think were very easy, kind of trivial, but they were cool to look at and fun to at least shoot for a few minutes, whether they be challenging or not. But I agree, the latter half of the game had the better bosses. Priestess, I think, was
Priestess is probably my favorite
probably my
one.
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shepherd was a cool spectacle, but I didn't really love the fight so much. Well, once you got the rhythm down, it was, I don't know, pretty straightforward. And King is interesting, although
King
I thought King got a little cheap in a couple of spots.
King had a couple abilities that were, like you said, were freaking ridiculously cheap. He had that laser. There was like a specific golden laser that I just could never freaking dodge. Um, Other than that, I mean, the jumps were annoying after a while, though. You could kind of figure out the timing a little bit on some of those. Um, I never really got really great at parrying. I don't know, like some of the red, it got so hard. It got so hard that like there's too much colors. There were so many colors on
It
screen.
usually
It's really
wasn't worth
hard.
parrying. Like, even if you
Yeah,
did get good at it, like your return on doing well with that
your
mechanic
movement's the most
wasn't
important.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was almost always safer and better just get out of the way and then, shoot him with something.
yeah. And I
But I think I
saw
agree with you. Go ahead. I'm
we
sorry.
both made the mistake of beating him the second time and accidentally punching him.
Like,
Stupid.
I knew the second time something different was supposed to happen, but I didn't catch the little opening in the wall,
I
and
just
I'm just like, well, I
forgot
guess I just hit
they
him
said
again.
something about change your decision
Make
or
a better choice.
make a
Yeah.
better choice or whatever. But
Yeah. Oh.
all right, so I guess real quick, did we just want to talk real quick about characters and narrative? Just overall, what did you think
Mhm.
about I guess to me the an interesting aspect is the whole comparison of Arjun overall versus Celine. I feel I will say for the longest time throughout the narrative, that was something I felt like was a big weight on the game. Was I felt like Arjun for the longest time compared to Celine was far and away weaker. Luckily, I definitely felt like once he started to get slowly more corrupted over time in the game, he definitely built up some personality. And I guess once you kind of started to learn kind of the darkness, I guess, kind of surrounding him or internally, he got more interesting. And then definitely at the very end, he gets super interesting because he caves into the evil in a way. But like, I don't know. What did you think about that? Did you think that like overall, what was Celine and him?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think where to start about this. I have a lot to say about Arjun's story. I think this kind of speaks to how Housemarque has played both these narratives, at least for the majority of both games, is they leave them very vague initially, right? And there's still, even towards the end, there's stuff that's kind of unanswered-ish in both, but the way Celine's story felt more complete. Like, there's probably still some little caveats in there that you have to kind of fill in the blanks of your own with, but I could see kind of the whole character progression, what her initial decisions were, how they got made, the impact like her mother had on her, how at the end her what was her son, I think, son or daughter, I can't recall,
It
but
was
who
daughter.
drowned, and kind of
Yeah.
her reaction to that, her fault, like it tied together a lot better. I think felt a lot more cohesive,
How
and
did
for
it
me, just a lot more
end? It
impactful.
ended kind of just with a sense of like, this is where I'm at. This is what I've done. You know, kind of
Yeah, I
it
mean, there's still some
was like
weird stuff in there,
bittersweet. You
like
know,
the whole
very
reason
bittersweet.
she. Yeah, and there's still some weird stuff that's hard to really clearly answer. Like the whole reason she drove off the bridge in the end was because the astronaut was there. Okay, but the astronaut was her. So there's definitely some insinuations there. You have to read between the lines, but I was okay with that. I don't know. That story just landed a lot better for me. I don't know if it was the pacing of it or it had less characters kind of interacting in that story, which I think played out better.
It felt more
Arjun's
personal,
felt,
like you were saying. There was less NPCs. There were NPCs everywhere, which made it kind of, I don't know. It's like, well, how are you still alive, dude? Lena, whatever your
yeah,
name is.
Arjun's felt messier. For one, because it's bringing in a much larger story too, with everything that happened on what's the name of the planet, Carcosa, something like
Carcosa,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, there's definitely some history in the Returnal world, but as I said, I personally think that whole story was in her head at the end of the thing. So I think all that was just kind of like an assembly of her kind of processing her grief and
That's
her
something I didn't
guilt
think
and all
about
that
was
kind
the
of
whole
stuff.
idea of like, because this whole, I really wanted to talk about it, but like, yeah, this whole world had like an entire lore, an entire thing. And now that I think about it, you're right. The Returnal world, I don't remember having like a, this is
I think
what's been happening. Yeah.
it had some, but I think it was superficial enough from what I recall. I didn't read all the lore in it, so I can't say for sure, but it made it culminate where I felt like it could have all been internalized. This is a lot harder because there's a lot of stuff that happened outside the perspective of Arjun that for that to all be just taking place in his head feels a little harder for me to grasp. So it makes me more believe that things that happened in, SAROS actually happened, whereas Returnal less so. But I don't know. I don't even know where I want to begin with kind of my issues with Arjun's story. Do you want to summarize the story really quick, at least from your understanding of it, and then kind of break it up from there?
Sure. So basically, the whole story kind of just begins with we have this Arjun and his crew. I believe they are the Echelon 4. They basically are a part of this corporate like big corporation that is expanding out into the sky, into the stars beyond Earth. And I believe they are more of like an excavation team where they just go out, they're scientists learning about building civilization elsewhere. And there are,
So specifically to add to that, they were going to like mine Lucenite. That was their main goal.
yeah,
It
oh
was a
yeah.
resource that the company wanted. So it was less about, I think, just expanding. It was like we want this resource. So
And in the lore, it's referenced that like the Lucenite was something created by whatever whatever is the entity here, whatever is controlling
mhm.
King. And like I don't mean to offshoot, but like the whole it was a cool theory I was seeing of that like the Lucenite is actually something created to draw in people so
Mhm.
that whatever it is could take them over and you know
Yeah, it's a whole desire kind of draw.
corruption type thing. But yeah, so essentially these people are just going out. Arjun has an ulterior motive, being that his wife was a part of one of the previous crews. I think the very first crew, right? She's technically a
Mhm.
part of this because each crew is the echelon. There's echelon one, two, three, four. His wife is a part of echelon one. He has ulterior motives to join, um, and so they land there. And immediately upon landing there, it kind of jumps in like midway. Oh no, he doesn't he technically get like revived immediately? He comes through the teleporter to rejoin
Pretty
the
much you're
group.
you're like mid run. You were out trying to search for echelon, whatever,
And
really
it's
searching
really
for your
cool,
wife, and then you die. Yeah.
but it's cool because I think part of the theory is that like, or something that isn't really expressed is like how long has he exactly been going through this? Which I
Mhm.
actually looked into it. Apparently, in one of the videos, they actually say how long he's been going through this. Did you see essentially how they tell you?
I can't recall.
In one of his flashbacks, um, I believe his name, who is it? I believe either Arjun or Devraj. Oh no, the word Saros in Indian culture, the word Saros is a time is a length of time. It's a word for another length of time, and apparently
I know that.
it stands for like 6,000 or 6,500 years or something like that. And
Interesting.
on one of the flashbacks when he's in the hotel hallway, one of the hotel rooms is a room 6,000 or 6,500 or something.
Mm,
So there's like and apparently the word Saros literally stands for a length of time. So he apparently
that's
has been
interesting.
going through this, or maybe the entire people in this world have been going through this for like 6,000, 6,500 years.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of cool. Is I like some of that stuff. Like there's one lore video I have to send you. I watch where this guy talks about literally like every aspect of it tied to Indian culture with like multiple arms stands for like strength or honor or something within Indian culture. That's why every enemy has like 6 arms or something. I don't know. But essentially, yeah. So that's basically the premise is he lands on there and is searching for the echelon crew and I don't know, kind of uncovers, oh, there's more going on here than you might think. And it's really cool in the lore. Like they explain why. I wish I would have paid more attention to the audio tapes. That's something as I would listen to them, but I wasn't really paying attention. And they reference all throughout like the reason why everything's so like, it's so cool. Everything's all disheveled because there's like this big war that's been happening for like ever between I don't know how to here, you take it away. I'm diving into freaking spoilers here.
Well, I think we're
I
kind
just think
of
like the lore is
there.
so cool that like to me that's some of the most interesting part of the game is learning about how
Mhm.
the echelon 1 crew is essentially learning about their fate and what happened post them getting to Carcosa is probably the most interesting part of the game in my opinion is learning
Yeah.
about this long-standing war over some nebulous thing that people think is going to make them more powerful or just corruption in general. I don't know. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit the general premise. I guess we then have to kind of
It
add a
is like
little
a
bit
story about
of
greed, right? Like probably greed and corruption
about
is like
desire,
desire.
is what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, that's what the whole yellow short thing is. But I think you hit a lot of, at least as far as the setup. Arjun's trying to find his wife specifically. I mean, yeah, he's signed on to find the past crews because all these other crews, Echelon 1, 2, 3, and 4, have basically excommunicado, right? No one knows what happened to them. They're not around. So that's what Echelon 4 is supposed to do is
And I
find
did
them.
forget
But
to mention
Arjun's really
this.
there to find his wife.
I did forget to mention this company that they work for is like your super typical greedy
Like the
company that
alien
is
company. What is
alien
it?
Wayland
Yeah.
Yutani or something where
Wayland,
they're
yeah.
just like we're jumping into the because I believe they said they did a scan of the planet and nothing came up as abnormal, which it's like, oh sure. But like yeah, they're just delving into things that they like have no understanding about essentially and
Oh,
yeah.
sure. They want the resource. It's the unobtainium of this game. They want it so they can, make more money. That's what it always is.
Does it really make
Um,
sense that primary falls into that as well when it's a machine that it becomes corrupted by greed as well? I don't know. I mean, I guess
I don't
this
know.
world is kind of
But we're
like
leading to AI. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation.
yeah, but
Um,
like, there's a lot of cool stuff with like Nitya and I don't know with kind of everything that. So I guess kind of the story into the and I guess we're delving into the plot, but like so essentially this first echelon crew that landed on the planet, I believe, which it's not really explained whether because okay, so you at the end of the game, they do this zoom out where you see like this little ball bubble. Do you remember that where it zooms out and it shows King on his throne, or it could be Arjun, but it zooms out and it shows multiples of bubbles or whatever. So I guess that's basically referencing that like either there's multiple versions of Arjun that are spread out throughout of him making different decisions or him ultimately landing in the same place or these are all different people at different times who have gone through the same thing who are also now become kings on their own thrones in this
yeah,
universe. I'm not quite sure which one it was saying, whether those are all different people or whether those are all different forms of Arjun, because there are multiple forms of Arjun at the end of this game. Arjun goes
yeah.
after
So they
himself,
don't
you know.
say definitively.
Yeah.
I'll tell you before I think we can really even dig into that. We need to give a little more backstory about the early echelon crews. So you kind of gave the premise from why
Yeah.
Arjun's there and why you as the player is kind of
Mm-hmm.
progressing through. The further backstory, you were starting to hit on it. The what really happened to the other echelon crews. The first echelon crew got there, and basically they started setting up a new civilization. They got somewhat corrupted by the whole Yellow Shore aspect of it. At least some of them did, which led them to seek out more power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and build out this civilization. Kind of harness it and grow it based upon how
Well,
they
they
saw
they
fit.
developed a society entirely around their different skill sets. Like that's why
Mm,
one of them was named prophet, priestess, architect.
yep.
Each of them had like a different skill set within this society. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, that's all true. And then it starts getting interesting. This is where I think some of my later points will come back. But so Echelon 2 comes, who's basically trying to follow up on Echelon
Mm-hmm.
1, colonize and whatnot. Echelon 1, and correct me if I'm wrong, because there are some lore things I didn't get, they basically enslaved Echelon 2 to a certain extent. I mean, the Yellow Shore did, but they used Echelon 2 to basically build out the whole society. Because Echelon 1 was a very small crew,
Mm-hmm.
Echelon 2 was much larger. So they used that workforce essentially to build out the world. So all these crazy civilizations and architecture and buildings you see, that's basically Echelon 1 enslaving Echelon 2 to build everything,
Yeah,
which
all of
has
the
its own kind of dubious intent.
essentially they say that like every enemy throughout the game is a civilian. It's somebody who lived
Yeah.
within the society who became corrupted.
Yeah, there were some beasts, but that's, kind of superficial, I think, to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Echelon 3, what was their deal again? I can't recall.
I can't remember. I only remember Echelon 1, 2, and 4. What was 3? I can't even remember 3, honestly. I missed
Yeah,
out
I
on a lot of the
feel like
lore
they were
stuff.
mostly fodder. I know there was a certain point then when a war broke out between basically the big people in Echelon 1, Arjun's wife being one of them, and other leaders in that group. And a civil war broke out. I think Echelon 3 was just kind of fodder for
Yeah,
that, if I recall correctly.
essentially Nitya and right because I think it's referenced that uh because so much time had gone by, Nitya had finally like at one point moved past Arjun, and it's referenced there's some sort of like maybe relationship between her and Kira or
Yeah,
something.
she basically restarted her whole life, found a new follower, which became a relationship, all of that. And she wanted to then vie for power. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the insinuation was she wasn't as corrupted by the Yellow Shore. She went, what is it, the Blue Precipice route or something?
Constant.
No, the whole
She
thing.
created Constant
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, so she was supposed to be set up as a more altruistic side of things. But either way, she somewhat insinuated or incited a civil war. And then the whole thing played out. And we kind of then got trapped in this cycle where whoever was vying for power, the Yellow Shore, would end up going to kind of the end result of becoming king of the entire Yellow Shore and thus everything underneath them.
And
Um,
that's where you wake up at the
and that's
beginning
a
of the
cycle
game.
you're kind of trapped in.
You
Yeah.
at the beginning of
Um,
the very beginning, you're like that's why everything's blowing up is you're literally reborn into like this civil war that is just destroying everything.
Well, you're kind of past the Civil War. The Civil War has already played out, and basically, from my
A
understanding,
king
and
is basically
whoever
one.
sitting,
Yeah.
yeah, whoever won, whoever reached the end game became king, and they were king over the Yellow Shore. The whole thing about Yellow Shore is it draws you in based upon whatever your deepest desire is, and eventually traps you on that throne. Nydia was trying to prevent people from going that route. That was the whole constant thing, kind of putting a blockade up. But Arjun, being who he was, kind of plowed through all of that until he made his way to the kingship. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually he succumbed to it because he succumbed to his own desires and he was then sitting on the throne. And that's when the story then has to start really looking at Arjun's personal journey and his relationship with Nydia. But that's I think, yeah, I'm sure it wasn't the cleanest way to describe it, but that's, I think, the overall kind of chronological kind of layout of everything, what happened to the Echelon crews, how Arjun kind of got tied into it, etc. I mean, do you feel like that's fairly accurate?
Yeah, I feel like that's shoot. I feel like it's perfect. I mean, there's really not. I
Probably
mean,
not, but
I'm sure there's other things. I'm trying to think of others. I don't think there's anything else to really. I mean, I guess they really didn't like build. One thing I wish they would have like talked about more was the yellow itself, the corruption or they don't really explain a heck of a whole lot. Like I mean, I guess
So
that's the point.
I
Is like who's
think,
behind it? What is it?
well, they kind of do. I don't know if you caught this. In one of the that was one of the ending scenes when Nitya and Arjun are in the water looking up at the sun, the big tentacles that come out behind the sun. Did you catch that?
I did see that. That's what it
Yeah.
was, or whatever it
I
was.
think I don't know how directly this was insinuated. But there is no moon. That was an audio log, like the whole eclipse thing.
Oh, I do
There is
remember
no
someone
moon to
saying
cause
there
an
is no
eclipse.
moon.
So I think the assumption is there's basically this Lovecraftian beast god
Mm.
kind of thing that is causing a lot of this, and where they feed on the desires or whatever it may be, and that's a whole thing. But that's kind of honestly superficial to the core of what this story is trying to get at. Because this story is really about Arjun and Nitya and their kind of history and their relationship and what led both of them to go off on this journey. So that's probably where we need to dig into. I don't know if you want to take a shot at kind of summarizing what you think happened there and their personal backstory, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I think what's super interesting is with a lot of the, like you were saying, with a lot of the backstory, is so much of it is, again, where I kind of kind of got into some of the lore videos. What's super interesting is how much of it is almost to an extent nebulous, where like certain things that happening in the plot are I'm trying to think of are almost imagery. It's imagery or symbolism for what's happening in their real life. Like I was watching some lore video of some guy saying that like the imagery of Arjun constantly running or running towards something is like they feel like in the game he wasn't necessarily running towards something, but more possibly, uh, or I guess from Nitya's view, is she's more running away from something. That's the whole point of her going on this whole journey. And I guess to an extent, I mean, I guess maybe Arjun is doing that as well, but there's so much. I'm trying to understand like where exactly things sat, because like even with the Sebastian guy, I still didn't quite understand kind of what was going on there. I was seeing something reference that like uh, uh Arjun or Sebastian was like uh, a possible relationship thing there that was like love not requited, or what's that term? I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Like it was just some friend of his that like I don't know what was going on with Sebastian. Can you remember? I don't even remember now.
So, all right. So here's my understanding
There's
of
something about
their
somebody being pushed out of a window, because they constantly
yeah.
show this image of glass breaking, somebody falling through, and then there's a quick scene of Sebastian on the ground dead.
Okay, so here's my understanding of what actually happened before anybody left for Echelon. Now, there's definitely some theories here, and there's not all
I
explicitly
always
laid out
thought
in the
it was
game. But
that
here's what
she
I
was
think.
cheating on him with Sebastian, and then he killed Sebastian or something.
So here, I
But
think is the common take, because once again, there's different theories, but based upon theory, I think some interviews with the actors and whatnot, and kind of what their understanding was. This is what I think happened. So Arjun and Nydia were married, not in a great place. Now, exactly why they weren't in a great place
he
is a
was an
little up
alcoholic.
in the
There's a
air.
reference that he's
He
an
definitely was
alcoholic.
an
Yes.
alcoholic, but what that really led to, like, was there abuse? That wasn't clearly laid out, but maybe was he just unattentive? Was he like it's very hard to say what the alcoholism led to in the relationship, but clearly it was a issue. There's other insinuations that Arjun's father had a bad impression on him when he was younger and led some toxic
I
masculinity
got the
traits.
sense
So
that Nitya just uh she just wanted to do something else. Like
I
I don't want to say she
there was
like didn't love
more
him,
there.
but to me it came off that she was
Mhm.
just kind of over it and wanting to try something new. And that's why
I don't think
like
it was.
because they point to
I
Kira
don't.
and they say something about like letting go and stuff, and I don't know, sorry.
So I don't think it's just she wanted to try something new. I think there was clearly some issues in the
You think she
relationship
was
because she
trying to get
tried.
away from something. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where I think the game and its vagueness doesn't serve it well because we don't know what that something was, and it gets very hard to then justify certain actions. Now, as I said, maybe he was straight up abusing her, whether it be
Because
emotionally,
they don't
physically,
really say
whatnot.
he's abusing her. They just say he's an
They
alcoholic and
don't.
he's verbally, he gives it to her sometimes. But
Maybe
like,
he's just not there. He's absent, whether it be in person or emotionally, whatever it is. Like all
mm-hmm.
these things are kind of left to you to interpret. But I think once again that does a bit of a disservice because you get to a point then when Nitya is making a decision basically to leave. She's going to be part of this Echelon 1 mission. Has been given an opportunity. She was going to turn it down because clearly I think she loves Arjun. They were had a relationship since they were kids.
Yeah.
But she, at the end of the time, pulls away because once again, he wakes up drunk again or kind of lashes out at her a little bit. And she's like, I can't do it anymore, and just goes off. I don't think it's just because she wanted something new. There was an issue in that relationship. So with that, before we go them on kind of Nitya's journey afterwards, what are some of the things in that Arjun definitely did or was insinuated that may have been part of the issue? So there was definitely some infidelity that happened between someone. I think the common takeaway is that Arjun cheated on Nitya. We don't know with who, and that his partner, I think they're both either security guards, nightclub guards, something like that, found out about it and was basically encouraging him to own up to it. Like, you need to go tell Nydia what you're doing, or I'm going to do it. So I
Well,
think they
because
were
there's
either all
there's
friends together.
there's reference. There's a couple in one of the cutscenes. They cut to Arjun going into their room, and he hears things coming from the bathroom, and that's what I was thought they were inferring is that like that's Arjun in there with some other woman or something in the bathroom, and they're
Gonna,
making whoopee. I don't know.
and this gets very open to interpretation as far as who the infidelity was with, or who. Maybe not have been Arjun. It could have been Nitya and Sebastian. But I think the common takeaway is it was Arjun, some person, and Sebastian was basically trying to get him to own up to it. And that's what caused, I don't know if she maybe found him in the hotel room, whatever it may be. And then in maybe a reactionary kind of status, he confronts Sebastian, pushes him out the window, and inadvertently kills him. So right off the bat, Arjun, has potentially done some very terrible things. He's probably cheated on his wife, and then he's murdered his partner, best friend, what have you. And I said there's some open interpretations there where maybe he was actually having the affair with Sebastian, but the actors kind of trounce that a little bit. But there are some weird lines in the game that insinuate otherwise.
I got
There
the
was all
sense that it was more Sebastian wanted that, but that Sebastian was somebody who also received like Arjun, you know, shot down any of his advances or anything, and just like
and that
he
could
just
be.
and that's why Sebastian came off as somebody who was also jilted. Is that the word I'm thinking of? He also was
Yeah,
somebody who was to an extent like a casualty of Arjun's personality.
yeah, I mean, that particular take does make things muddier. It's definitely cleaner interpretation is think that Arjun, cheated on somebody or cheated with somebody, and then Sebastian caught him, and he was kind of the casualty at the end of it.
Fair
There's
enough.
another theory where it was Sebastian was cheating with Nitya, and then Arjun walked in on that, and then pushed Sebastian out the
I
window.
guess any
But
of this stuff could really be, they don't say so.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The vagueness of this paints things odd because then it's hard to really justify certain people's reactions. Like Nydia leaving. Was she leaving because she was having an affair? Did she find out about the affair? Did she know nothing about it? Like, it makes it very hard to really put all that into perspective. The
And
only
when
thing I
did
think
she
is
leave? Did
relatively
she leave
clear.
after he murdered somebody and got arrested? Like, did she leave like?
That's a good point. We don't know that. I think I had assumed that it happened before she left, but maybe it was a reaction that he had after she left. So maybe it's like maybe so did he cheat on
Maybe
her then? If she left and he was just see that's a tricky one. I don't
why
know.
wouldn't she
I feel
leave
that
if she
timing.
has if she's not tied down and he gets arrested and is going to prison? Like, okay, oh yeah, I'll go,
But
I'll
does she
leave.
know all that? Okay, no. Okay, so you know what? Back up. This all had to happen before she left because there were phone calls where he was talking about his partner dying.
Hmm.
So that all happened prior to her leaving. So she left after what would have been the possible infidelity and the murder. But the only thing I think you can really say for sure is that Arjun killed Sebastian, one way or
Yes.
the
Oh
other.
yeah. There's something about a window. Something
Yeah,
somebody got pushed out of a window. Um, It has to be
Yeah, the
Sebastian.
infidelity stuff is tricky. But either way, so Nydia leaves because of issues with their relationship. She feels like Arjun's not quite meeting whatever he needs to
I
meet.
just feel
He's
like there was
holding
a lot
her.
of I feel like there was a lot of imagery with Nitya and Kira. Is my ultimate thing is like is and
Well, yeah.
is not I'm not saying that of course there's something going on there, but I mean like the fact that they focus in so much on what was going on there, it makes me think that um that like that that's something Nitya was pursuing. Like I think maybe all along she wanted to get away from Arjun, and she was just
Well,
looking
yes.
for a
She was
place
not
to.
happy in their relationship.
Yes.
I think that's clear. Now, the rationale for why, I think, is what's up in the air. As I said, abuse, controlling, possessiveness, like all those things could have been the case, but she didn't feel like she could be who she wanted
I
to
just
be.
mean
So she left.
her restart wasn't just because she got stranded on some planet. Her restart is something.
No, she
Yeah.
left because
Yeah.
of Arjun. She
Yeah.
left because she didn't want to be in that relationship. That's, I think, that's clear.
Okay. Okay.
Because she was
Sorry.
going to she was going to stay. She was going to turn down the whole echelon thing
Mm-hmm.
because she's like, no, I still want to make this work. And then there was one last lashing out or last fight with her and Arjun. She's like, nope, I'm gone. And that's when they had the whole thing where it's like, you don't want me, you just want the thought of me, kind of thing, which was a little cliche. Um, but she goes off just to, live her best life, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I don't know. I start having some interesting, kind of interesting,
Reservations.
but reservations about how the game then moves forward with painting all these characters. And once again, I am not trying to say that Arjun is a gem in this story at all because he clearly isn't. Right? He most likely, murdered somebody, whether it be voluntary or not. He did. Probably is involved in
But
infidelity. Not a great
but
guy.
but like
But the
but like his redemption is pretty like it's like, well, I mean, dude, he's going through hell, to try and put things right, even if he's, kind of still ruining certain things in the eyes of the echelon crew. But like,
Yeah, and this is maybe where I think a lot of people, if you've watched anybody have issues with this, they kind of harp on not quite wokeness, but they're really harping on, toxic masculinity traits, which clearly Arjun is set up to have early on in their relationships, and having to overcome those is kind of, I think, one of the primary journeys they put him on. So basically painting this man bad and everybody else, like Nitya in particular, is good. And I took issue with that in particular. Not so much that Arjun is, a very flawed character and definitely has some, toxic masculinity traits that probably need to be addressed, but Nydia was painted, I think, from that point on as this very altruistic character, which
mm-hmm.
I don't think was a fair representation of her. And that's why I'm saying how vague their relationship was in certain
You're saying that
aspects.
the vagueness of the relationship makes it hard to tell how good or bad
Why
she
she left,
was.
was there
Yeah, I see what
and
you're
once again, I'm
saying.
not trying like if she was a victim in this, I'm not trying to make this like a victim shaming thing or anything like that by any means. But it's hard to say. Like, what is her rationale for leaving and why? What truly happened in that relationship? And then on the other side of it, so she goes off and she lives what she eventually thinks is her dream. She states that a few times
Mm-hmm.
in various flashbacks and whatnot. But she had, from my perspective, once again, there may be different ways to look at this, did some kind of terrible things in the course of this whole echelon upbringing, whatnot. So she basically
She
incited a civil
indoctrinated and got
war.
a bunch of people killed multiple times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, early on, like they had that one scene where you saw their holograms. Desmond, I think, was one of the other Echelon One crew who was kind of like their leader, and he was kind of priming himself to be, the true king at the end of the whole thing. And Nydia was her his priestess, and then she pushed back. She's like, "No, why can't I lead?" So she wanted the power for whatever reason, which incited a civil war, which that is problematic in some ways. And even before that, she must have been complicit with basically enslaving all of Echelon 2 to build out a society, which is also problematic. So I guess I just don't want to look at Nydia as this 100% altruistic character, which I think is how the game was trying to set her up. And I took issue with that. It made a very hard dynamic
But
between
doesn't
rationalize,
everyone
okay,
get corrupted? Like, I'm just
they
saying, like,
they
does it
tried to
really?
make it seem like Nydia didn't. Like she never actually succumbed to the Yellow Shore. That was the whole reason she did
Oh,
the whole constant thing and whatnot. And at the end of the game, she's just there on the beach with you. Like she was right. She was good. It's Arjun chasing her down, which was the problem. She was just trying to get away from him and live her dream, and all that was just right and good. And her dream has some issues, in my opinion. So that's what I took away from it. The game clearly is trying to, I think, paint Arjun bad, Nydia good, and I don't think that really is a fair summation to it. Now, once again, I could be missing out on a lot of little lore tidbits that paint things a little differently,
Yeah,
but I didn't like that.
I get what you're saying. I just ultimately kind of sit on like I do agree though. I think the nebulousness of certain things just makes it so hard to definitively say one way or another.
Hmm.
I feel like Arjun. Why I would agree with you. I feel like Arjun for the most part is a bad guy throughout this game, but even though he's very much like a Guts from Berserk. I think that was a character I kept thinking of as like, yes, he's kind of a bad guy, but like the strength and the determination he has to try and write something, even though he may not know exactly what he's trying to write,
But
does
they
that not
paint that initially
count?
as such a bad thing too.
Yeah,
Like
because he
his
runs
whole
headlong
rationale
into
for
it.
going after Nydia, they say is bad. Like to go in, because it's his desire to
It's his
find her. It's not
desire to
her
find her.
desire. So that is all still the wrong motivation to go and potentially save his wife. And to be fair, she may not want it to be saved, and I get that. And his redemption just doesn't really, for the things they try to paint him to do, whether it be infidelity and murder. I don't think his redemption really came all that clear at the end. Like, what, he recognized that he did some terrible things and had to be accountable for it, but can he be accountable for it when he's now trapped on this planet, thousands of years after the events took place? Like, I don't know. I feel like this is just a game where the nebulous aspect of the story hurt it more than it helped it. Whereas Returnal, I think the nebulous aspect left some nice mystery in there while still giving you enough to kind of have a good understanding on Celine, her history, and the motivations and where she got left off at. Here, I have more questions than answers, and it just leaves me unsettled.
Yeah, because Celine, I don't know. I get what you're saying about like this just leaving a bad taste, just because like Celine didn't come off as. I don't think she was a bad character like at all, right? She didn't. What did she do wrong? I don't remember. I mean, there were some
She had some
mild
issues that
things.
she potentially killed her mom, right?
I don't remember that at all. Oh goodness.
Well, I think it was like her mom was like dying, and I think it was like
Oh,
a
like
euthanasia kind of
euthanasia
thing. But
type
like,
thing. Yeah.
and I think I could be forgetting that a little bit, and I don't exactly know what the cause was as far as her, being at guilt or fault for her child dying. Like, she was not perfect, but I think her journey and her decisions you could track a lot better. You could see how one thing kind of led to the other and where that character got to. Whereas Arjun, it's harder to read because we don't have some of the context. And here's the other thing that makes it really hard to decipher. Do you think Arjun's really a reliable narrator in this whole thing? Like, clearly, he is basically corrupted the whole time. You've seen from his perspective his crewmates being corrupted and they're just off their rocker. You have to imagine he's pretty well off his rocker at this point. He's just not being able to tell because he's in his
Well,
shoes.
that one
So
guy throughout
how?
a lot of the beginning of the game does talk to you like you are also like Stack. Like a lot of the conversations you have with Stack, like a lot of times he talks to Arjun as if like they're on the same like level of understanding of where things are
Yeah,
at. Even though Arjun's like, Stack, you're going crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So how reliable is anything we're seeing? Which then also brings into question every flashback we've seen, because we have to assume that whenever, even when we see like those sections where we're playing as Nydia, does that really even make sense? If this whole game is from the perspective of Arjun, can we really see anything from Nydia's standpoint? Are the way we're even seeing these holograms accurate? Like, it just causes more
huh, that's
confusion, I think,
interesting.
than anything else. Um,
Yeah, I didn't
so I
think
don't know,
about that.
and I don't think that's what the game is trying to play at necessarily. Like, I think they're trying to paint a very or pretty clear picture of Arjun was bad. He's trying to find some, reconciliation in the whole thing, and he shouldn't be going after Nydia. And Nydia did the right thing by leaving and finding her own path. But I think that when you really take everything into context, that's not as clear of a story as it could have been. I think a little more context could have painted that a little better, and if I would have felt a little more resolved at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, I that what else did we not touch on with this? I feel like we touched on all the crazy stuff that I particularly cared about. Again, the stuff to me that was the most interesting was overall the imagery, like a lot of the lore. Now I really want to go watch some more lore videos on what
Mm.
exactly was happening. I don't know. Is there any character we didn't? I mean, I guess the only other character we didn't really touch on was Delroy, which I think that's King. I don't think he
Oh,
really.
Delaware. I think I said Desmond earlier. You're
Oh,
right.
Desmond, you did say Desmond. Okay.
I'm dumb.
They didn't really. I don't really. I guess not. He doesn't really fit into it. He was just a greedy guy who wanted to keep control of the group of his civilization.
Yeah, there's definitely other characters, but none of them I think have a major impact
Did we
as far as
find
the
out?
core
I guess
narrative.
Kayla. Kayla would be the only other one that I'm like, oh, she played a big role. Well, she didn't play a big role, but like I would have been curious to know what was going on there. Like why was she kind of like Nitya a little bit, in that she was able to fight off the corruption, right? She survived and was
Yeah,
alone for decades apparently or something.
and they don't really say why. I guess that's another interesting. It's like, so are you by default a bad person by having a desire that would be strong enough to pull you towards the yellow shore? Like, what made Kayla and Nitya altruistic? Like, were their desires not corrupt? What were their desires? Like what are the rules here? I guess is kind of what I'm going with. Because you're right, like Kayla did not fall victim to it. She went the route of the blue precipice, where she had the blue eyes and wasn't impacted by
But
it. And I'm
there
assuming
are
Nitya was
other women
similar.
who went corruption. Like the leader of the group, she went insane and tried to
Yeah.
kill Stack. And I
Um,
I'm just I agree with you though. I'm trying to understand what Kayla did. I mean, we know nothing about her
what made her special?
backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What made Nitya special? Like, were they just the best people? I don't know. So, and maybe there's some more lore
Maybe it
there. So
doesn't
there's a
matter.
lot of
Again, it's all
audiobooks.
like Arjun, like coded, like you're saying. Like it's supposed to
They had a
be.
very clear story they wanted to tell about Arjun being bad. I think that's kind of the crux of it. So if you take issue with that, then I think this story kind of falls apart. If you just accept it for what it is, then it's enjoyable enough. But when you really start reading into it, I think there's some holes in the logic and the context that could be
So
needed.
overall, you don't think any of this was real. You don't think the world is real. You think Arjun
So
is probably
this,
still in prison or something back on Earth.
no, no, I don't know. This one, I lean more towards being
He's
real than
definitely in
Returnal.
prison because they show like cop cars in front of his face at the end.
Maybe, maybe. I think the reason I feel like this is more reasonable, unless he made up this entire civilization in his head and all these other people's motivations and backstories, that's hard for me to grasp. Like in Returnal, you didn't really get that feel that, Celine made up these really complex this lore for this world and whatnot. Like most of it was pretty superficial, and then the lore you did get was really based upon her and her history. Like the one boss you fought where played Blue Oyster Cult was basically what an analogy for her dad. So it was
Mm-hmm.
all pulling from her. This game didn't do that. It was pulling from prior echelon crew. So if if that wasn't real and was all in his head, where'd all that come from? So I think that's my logic behind thinking this might be a more real situation than Returnal was. Um, which also makes it almost harder for me than to grasp. That means all the stuff we talked about with Nydia and her choices actually happen that way, and if so, that doesn't leave her character to me in a good spot. It doesn't mean that he really truly resolved himself. Yeah, he finally didn't make the king choice at the end, but he's still a bad guy who's not really being accountable for his actions. At least not really.
So if
If,
Nitya at the end was with you and was okay, then who was Priestess?
well, they did mention there were other priestesses. Like after her and Delroy kind of had their falling out, he found other priestesses.
Okay,
So
so maybe that might have been a different priestess. Okay.
yeah, that wasn't her you were fighting as priestess,
Oh,
to
there
my
were
understanding.
three of them. It did become
Mm.
three priestesses, so maybe that could have been other people in that role for him or something. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was stated in some audio log somewhere.
Okay.
So
I was just saying, I was thinking that. I'm like, well, who was priestess then if she was alive in the end? I don't know. I think that's what I think. I think it was real. I think it was real. I think that's what they're referencing, that this whole universe and everything is is there's some Cthulhu like monster that engulfs astronauts who are out in space.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know though, but I agree with you. I think the Celine story feels better as like a she's not an astronaut or she's not out in space. I don't know. She's on Earth and she died in a car crash. I don't know.
She's in purgatory even, like if you want to go that route. Like
I think the
I
Celine's.
don't
It's weird because I think both stories fit better because they're supposed to. They may be supposed to be a part of the same universe, but I feel like they both fit better being two different plot elements. You know what I mean? I feel like Celine, it fits
I
better for
don't
her
think
to
they're
be
supposed to be
dead.
part of the same universe
Really, you
necessarily.
don't
Like
think?
they're
Or you think
no,
it's
I
just
mean
more spiritual,
artistically.
like a spiritual uh, element of them tied together, but not necessarily a direct
I
one.
don't think they're tied together at all. I think they want these to be two different game stories, universes. Like
Okay, I was
nothing about
just
this
yeah.
game ties into Returnal at all. I mean, except for they probably both came from Earth initially, but beyond that, what else really ties them together beyond gameplay similarities? I think they wanted that separation. I didn't think they wanted to be tied down by Celine's story or lore. I was kind of disappointed with that, to be honest. I wanted this to somehow be a quote unquote Returnal 2 with some kind of little hook into that, but
Hmm.
I don't think that's what they wanted. I think they wanted a clean break from that to tell a different story, which is fair. I mean, in some ways, that gives them more flexibility to do things that maybe they couldn't do in the first game.
Fair enough. So I guess overall, what could this game have done to like really improve? I guess like you were saying, something more, just something more to differentiate itself from Returnal.
More variety in biomes, more variety in enemies. That was my two biggest things. The story nitpicks I have, I would have had regardless, probably. I mean, you could definitely tweak the story some and I might like it better. But honestly, I mean, I'm picking it apart, but I still appreciate what they tried to
The
do with the
gameplay loop
story.
is definitely like the big thing with this
I
game.
think the improvements to the gameplay are really good.
It's why
I think
I feel like this is a game I want to play already. Like I could go back and play this right now. It's so fun. I actually do really want to go back through and collect the rest of the audio and text logs. I think that's probably the last
if
thing I'll do.
if there was any gameplay changes that I just see for like, a quote unquote, it wouldn't be Returnal 3, whatever they call the next, spiritual successor to this, I'd like to see more build flexibility where you could actually play this game a little differently. Like the way you kind of package your artifacts with your guns, with your whatever, gives you a little more variety in your play style each time. Like right now, I still feel like no matter what you do, you're always kind of doing the same thing, especially once you kind of find your rhythm, right? Like this is the gun I like, these are the artifacts I know I should be getting. You're just gonna play the game the same way every time. Some different build I think would be nice.
Yeah. And could I give some advice to House Marquee we're
No.
since we're doing this thing? Next game, here's a suggestion. Next game, I'm Hispanic. Next game, main character's name is Carlos. Mexican themed Cthulhu ran
On like a
place.
taco planet, and you're just going through different Mexican meal inspired biomes. One's the chimichanga world, one's the orange tree grove.
I'm telling you, I'm
I'm
Hispanic.
sorry.
I can desire this as a video game. Give me a Mexican themed world. I don't know. I guess people already view that as orange and gray, so
Oh, that's a good point. What would the color
the
palette be?
color palette would be something similar.
Mm,
I don't know. I'm joking, but is that something they could do next? Where they're like, are they? Would the next one be a world built around some other main protagonist? Again, the world is
I feel
supposed
like it
to
would
be.
have to be. I feel like with in the precedent they're setting, they can't build off Returnal. I think they've kind of brought this out. I don't ever see a Returnal 2 with a building on that story, which I don't think there should be. I feel like honestly that would lessen or cheapen the Returnal story a little bit.
And they can't do this
And
because like
this
it's like, well, you're done with the Indian culture. Like this game does such a good job
I mean
with it.
this
It's
game
like
has more
why?
lore that they could build off. Like you could be part of Echelon 1 or something, but I don't see that being engaging really. I think once again, my complaints are already that I've kind of seen it done that from going from Returnal to Soros. I
Hmm.
think from Soros to a Soros 2 would be a lot worse. It needs to be something brand new. I need to see some brand new biomes, a brand new story, brand new pro tag, and I'm fine with that. As long as the gameplay is still what it is, and maybe a few little tweaks in there, like I suggested, then I'd be happy.
Brand new, but still red and blue orbs getting fired at you really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, that the core gameplay should not change. And
Yeah, of
honestly, it
course.
didn't going from Returnal to SORUS. Like they added a little bit with the shields and stuff, but the gameplay is still the gameplay. They could tweak, progression elements and story and all of that, but they just gotta keep the core gameplay the same, and I'd be happy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, shoot. Was there anything else? Anything else I cared about mentioning? I don't think so. I feel like we hit on everything that I mainly touched on. Um, so what is this? So this is game number 2 for House Marquee. I'm gonna be fascinated to see
It's
what.
not. They've made a bunch of other games.
Have they made a bunch of other games? Oh gosh, I thought this
So
was
they
only
made a bunch of other
indie, probably smaller
bullet
indie
hell
stuff.
games.
Yeah.
Do you remember that game Resogun?
Yeah. Hmm.
It was they made Resogun.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, interesting.
They made a bullet hell shooter, but it was a top down, like isometric. I don't remember what that was called. But you'll see, like, if you look at all of them, they all are these bullet hells. It's just they change a perspective each time. Like, honestly, Returnal and SAROS is basically their game prior to that, but in third person instead of top down.
Interesting.
So
And
they
I
got a
guess
niche.
last thought that on my behalf, and then I'll end it, and you can take it
There you
away.
go.
Take it away, Penny.
I'll take it away. Where am I going?
My last thought is that from what I understand, um, critically, Returnal was beloved, and from what I understand, Saros is the same. Like critically, people really like the game, borderline love it in some cases. But from what I understand, Returnal didn't particularly sell very well, and I'm gonna venture to guess that Saros, being a similar case, is probably not going to be a game that sells very well. So my
Last I
curiosity is
heard,
just,
it sold worse than Returnal.
that's what I'm getting at, is like, that's what I'm wondering is House Marquee the kind of developer that you think Sony is okay with that, where they're like,
It all
I'm
depends on
not
the
saying I
budget
want anything to
that they
happen to
had.
House Marquee, but I'm saying if these games aren't selling particularly well, how long is Sony willing? Oh, you know what? Sony's throwing money at Bungie, whatever. I'm sure they're.
So there's no way to truly answer that question unless we saw the budget for these games, but that's really the mark you have to beat, right? They have to at least meet the budget and then exceed it by some profit margin. Returnal, I know, didn't do well for it was kind of this perfect storm of things that didn't work well. It was timing when it came on the PS5. People could even get a PS5 because COVID and whatnot. It
Mm-hmm.
was also a very hard game that just had a big barrier for entry. So bunch of things that made Returnal hard to sell, but it still sold, I think, relatively well enough. Must have, because we got this game. To my understanding, this game sold worse than that, and I don't know if it's maybe it wasn't marketed well enough. Games are too expensive
You
now.
get what
It's
I'm getting at, though. I'm
$70,
just getting
so
at like how long are they willing to kind of let House Marquee keep doing its artsy, endeavors before they're just like, all right, you need to work on a PvP six, I want six Origins versus six Origins in
it's
some
going to be based
hero shooter.
upon how much money it costs to make versus how much it brought in. I just did a quick Google search. I have no idea if this is accurate. I'm just pulling sources. But this particular thread says roughly $76 million to make. So honestly, in the grand scheme of
That's pretty
AAA
cheap. That's
games,
actually pretty cheap. Yeah.
not terrible. Now, if I can say SORUS sales, approximately 300,000 copies. So what's 300,000 times 70? Do the quick math, Chaz. You can do it.
I'm not Forrest Gump. I don't know.
21 million. So it has not made its money back. If that's
Yeesh.
accurate. Yeah, it says it generated a little over 22 million in early revenue.
I mean that's not
Now,
as like disastrous as
that's not Lifetime.
Bungie, but like, yeah, it's not
What is it?
Lifetime.
That's also it's not Lifetime. This game's been out for a month and a half, something like that. So over
Even
the
when it goes
course of
on
the next,
sale, 20-30 bucks, people will still be buying the heck out of it. So
yeah. Now we are about to hit a very busy game time as we get towards the end of the year
oh,
and
I
whatnot. So
guarantee it'll
people
pick
finding
up on
time.
sales. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any. Here's the other, I think, not nail in the coffin, but thing that's definitely not going to work in its favor. It doesn't seem like Sony's looking to put any more of their exclusives on PC, which that's a market that they could probably use the profit from
This
for a
would be a
game like
good.
this in
This
particular.
would be a popular game on PC. I bet you. Was
Yeah.
Returnal ever on
So
PC?
yes, I believe it
Hmm.
was.
Hmm. I'm just saying,
Um,
this type of game should be on PC. People love their roguelikes, you know. This is like
yeah.
super typical Steam game or whatever Sony has.
That 76 million also did not include marketing costs apparently. So they're guessing that the game should need to sell anywhere from 1.5 to 2.2 million copies just to break
Mm,
even. That's at full
goodness.
price.
Cuz like
That will be a tough sell.
it does make me sad cuz even though I had some problems with game like SAROS, I love this gameplay type and
Yeah.
I do love the lore and like to an extent I, I'm a sucker for games that are like I'm a sucker for stories that aren't clear. I don't know why for some
Yeah, they
reason I
make you
love
think.
sci-fi games that are like is this happening? Is this happening? Like you were saying, games that make you think and I love this kind of stuff.
Like I can tell you, I definitely had my issues with this story. I still appreciate that's a story that we could come and talk about and have an opinion
Mhm.
about. It's not
Yeah.
just like Gears of War 5 where you're like, oh, that guy's dead. Like that kind of stuff that has
Yeah.
no real, controversy or discussion points or anything like that. So I appreciated this game. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Any critique I had honestly was just critiques from enjoying the game more than anything else and having something to say about it. So I definitely don't want this game to sell poorly enough that we don't see
I
another.
just felt like that was
I'm
an
hoping
important
that's not
point
the
to bring
case.
up the sales just cuz it's like
It
I
is.
mean, corporations are going to cooperate, It's like how long are they willing to stick it out,
I am curious if part of the reason this game didn't sell well is because Returnal didn't really leave a great taste in some people's mouth. I mean, they didn't market this game, I think, well enough to, I think, win over the Returnal people on the offset. People who tried Returnal, 5 years ago, realized that game was hard. They saw this game, like, that game is going to be just as hard. So, I don't know. There probably was maybe a better way to pitch this. I
Are
mean,
these
maybe not.
hard
I don't
games
know.
to market in general? Like
Yeah.
when you look at a cover and you just hear Sorrows, it's like what is
Yeah,
that?
you
You
got
know
this
what I mean? Like what
nebulous
does that mean?
name.
What does any, I don't know.
eh, I mean, honestly, I mean, besides like if you look at the
I
cover
mean
of it, besides
Raul
the
Coley,
king picture in the back,
honestly, Raul Coley is not like a huge like he's a big actor, but no, not many people know who he is.
yeah,
Versus
he's not gonna
what's her
sell this
name
game on
from
his own,
Celine? At
unfortunately.
least Celine was like coming off of Game of Thrones. It's like at least this is some notice. Like she was a much bigger name getting her brand of Tarth, and no offense to Raul, but I couldn't name something I've seen
Well,
him in.
also too, Returnal didn't have nearly as like you didn't have nearly as many games to play back when Returnal came out. The PS5 was relatively new. Like your library was smaller. You had less options. That is not the case
Oh,
now. People's backlogs are crazy. $70 is a lot for a game. Games weren't
just
were
wait
they
till the end
$70
of.
when
Oh, I was gonna say wait till the end of September. You're gonna have 5,000 games that you'll never play that will come out at once. I think Ace
yeah.
Combat even that's another game I forgot comes out then. It's like a bajillion. Every game comes out, but yeah, I don't know. I hope the best for House Marquee. Like, and again, they're like another studio now that it's like they're a studio that like are on my watch list. Like whenever they put out something, it's like, oh, House Marquee put something out. I want to see. I want to play it. Their
Are
quality,
they? I know they are within the Sony like
Umbrella, whatever.
yeah, but they're not first party,
I don't
right?
think
Like
they
does
are.
Sony
I don't.
own them as a studio outright? I think they're just part of like the I'm gonna check real quick.
I don't know.
Because if that's the case, worst case, I mean Sony drops them and they could be picked up by a different publisher.
Mm,
Um the parent company is PlayStation Studios. If it's the parent company,
that's good, right?
that,
If that's good, that means they're
no,
willing to
that's more
stick it out.
oh, I think that's worse.
Oh shoot.
Um, like if Sony owns them outright, then it's their decision when they need to gut them. If it's just like a partnership where they, are only making exclusive games for them, like Insomniac, I don't think Sony owns Insomniac because I could be missing on that too. They didn't used to long
House
ago.
Marquee would be
And
they'd be a studio that I would hope that like don't gut them, just let them go, let them become
Insomniac is
independent.
owned by PlayStation now too.
Like
Yeah.
I
Well,
would love
neither of them
House.
seem to be independent.
I would love Marquee just to become independent. It's like, please don't destroy this whole company.
Yeah, no, it would be a shame if this company went away because nobody's making games like this that I see. I mean, there's probably
Oh yeah.
some spin-offs out there, but of this quality and this
You
scale,
know, I
like
never
I don't
thought
know other
about it,
games
but
like this.
since you brought up the bullet hell thing, now that's all I can think about is this is straight up a bullet. These are bullet hell games. The whole dodging of colors and firing back attack. These are like first person bullet hell games. It's pretty cool. I can see the
Yeah,
foundation of what they've worked on.
yeah, it's a very unique genre that is not prevalent in the industry. So if they go away, this game type goes away at least for a while.
Yeah.
Well, well. Looks like you've reached the end, haven't you? You imbeciles. On EnteRChazmaN, you'll witness gaming brilliance beyond your comprehension. ChazmaN Live brings the drama. Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. EST. Long Plays delivers full journeys, uncut and unspoiled. Join the Patreon, Discord, Instagram, and TikTok below, if you can manage it. Still not following EnteRChazmaN? Then mediocrity clearly suits you.